Hi everyone, my name is Kristen. Welcome to my channel. Here we explore an experiential approach to spiritual awakening and manifestation, or as I like to refer to it, the law of reflection. In today's video, I want to talk about sitting with feelings, which I admit is a topic that I have wanted to cover for quite some time. The reason for that is because there are many misconceptions about what sitting with your feelings actually is in terms of how to do it, the purpose of sitting with feelings, and what it actually achieves. I've noticed over the years that many people get this technique confused. Sometimes we overcomplicate this technique, and some coaches in the community, particularly the ones that are against using this technique, don't really understand what the technique actually is. So they are opposing something that they don't really understand how it works. So in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what sitting with your feelings isn't. And then I'm going to tell you what it is. And hopefully, you will be relieved at how simple and uncomplicated it actually is. Okay, let's look at what sitting with your feelings is not. It's easier for me to outline what it isn't more than what it is, especially as there are a lot of misconceptions in the community around what it really means. So, firstly, I actually don't use the phrase sitting with it anymore. I used to a few years ago, but I don't actually say that now. I just say being present with your feelings, or being aware of your feelings, or being with your feelings, which is really what sitting with it actually means. However, I think that the phrase sitting with it causes confusion in itself because it can make some people think that it's literally about sitting, that if you are busy and a unpleasant feeling comes over you, that you have to drop everything and literally sit down in meditation and feel it through, and that is absolutely not what it is at all. Sitting with your feelings just means being present with them. That's all it means. So if we're sitting with our feelings, we are allowing them to be there, and we are not suppressing them or trying to push them down or ignore them. We're being fully present with whatever is there and accepting it for what it is. Now, when I say accepting it, I'm not saying you're resigning yourself to a life that you don't want, or that you're allowing bad things to happen to you. It's not resignation. We're not waving a white flag here. When I say accept it, it means you accept the feeling for what it is without trying to change it. And the reason for that is because the feeling itself is not a problem. So, back to what sitting with it isn't, because I realized I actually just told you what it is instead. Let's get back to what it isn't. Sitting with it does not mean that you need to sit down, that you need to drop everything, or that you need to meditate into difficult emotions. It just means being aware of them without pushing them away. Just means being present. That's all it means. It also doesn't mean dwelling or spiraling in unpleasant emotions. So when we are dwelling or we're spiraling in something, we're not being present at all. We're actually being very unconscious when we do that. We have gotten caught up in a disempowered identity that doesn't feel good. We fully believe that is who we are, and we are spiraling in that story, and it begins to feel worse. That's what spiraling or dwelling in something is. Now, that is very different to being present, really becoming aware of the disempowered self that you're embodying in that moment, becoming aware of how it feels. And instead of reacting from that or trying to suppress it and push it down. You're just very present and grounded in it. That is completely different thing from spiraling in your emotions. Now, the reason I bring that up is that there are some manifestation coaches that don't like the sitting with it method and even go as far as to say that it's dangerous. And this is one of the reasons why they say that, because they don't understand that sitting with something isn't the same as dwelling in it. So, teachers that are teaching sit with your emotions are not saying dwell or spiral. They're saying something completely different. Another reason that some manifestation coaches don't like this technique is because they say that it could possibly be re traumatizing. This is an important point, so I do want to address it. Firstly, sitting with your feelings, i.e., being present with them, is not re traumatizing. You cannot re traumatize yourself just because you are being grounded and present and calm in your feelings instead of pushing them down. If you were spiraling and over identifying and reliving things, then yes, this can cause re-traumatization. But being present in your feelings is not the same thing as that. So again, this is a misunderstanding of what sitting with it actually is. However, I can understand why some coaches think that this is what people are teaching when they say sit with it, because as the manifestation community has grown over the years, it has begun to become more aware of trauma, which essentially is a good thing. We do need to be more trauma informed. However, there is a difference between being trauma informed and practicing as a coach in areas that are not in your lane. And what I mean by that is that if you are a spiritual teacher, a YouTuber, or a manifestation coach, but you are not qualified as a mental health therapist or some sort of trauma work practitioner or a psychiatrist, if you are not qualified in those fields, then technically you cannot practice in them. One mistake that the manifestation community does make, in my opinion, is that often individuals don't stay in their lane and they will mistake being a trauma informed manifestation coach to be a manifestation coach who is also dabbling in realms that they are not really qualified to be dabbling in. And this is obviously problematic when it comes to working with clients with trauma, because if a teacher misunderstands what the sitting with it technique actually is, and they are doing something with their client that is more like reliving a traumatic event without showing them how to truly be present in that moment, without showing them how to drop the identities around that over time so that they can actually heal. If the coach is not doing that and they're really just teaching them to dwell and spiral in emotions, then this is when the technique does become harmful. But I would also stress that it's no longer sitting with your feelings anymore. It's just being taught wrong. Another misunderstanding and question that I get quite often when it comes to sitting with feelings or being present with your feelings is someone will say to me, I sat with this feeling and it felt better for a moment, but then the feeling came back. Why is it not working? So, this is when we think that being present with our emotions is a technique to make those emotions go away, which is the exact opposite of what being present is trying to achieve. Just think about that for a moment. So, if you're being present, sitting with an unpleasant emotion, you're not suppressing it. You're not trying to make it wrong or get rid of it or flip it around in any way, because you already know that the feeling itself is not a problem and that it is safe to feel it. And that as soon as you feel it, then you can actually process it and move through it. But this is not a technique to get rid of a feeling. So if you're being present with your emotions in order to get rid of them, you're actually not being present with them at all. You're not practicing the true meaning of presence, because the true meaning of presence means that you're being open and accepting without trying to change what you're feeling. So the best practice is actually to hold whatever emotions are coming up in acceptance and unconditional love. And this is what it means to be in your true nature as the divine. This is what it means to be God, the true nature of God or divinity or consciousness, whatever label you like to call it, is love. It is unconditional love and acceptance. So when we dwell in this and allow whatever feeling we are having to become enveloped in your own unconditional love, in your own true nature, then it is true that that feeling will start to transform. But if you want a lasting result, you actually need to shift the identity that the feeling is showing you. So, being present with the feeling is an emotional regulation technique. It's a way for you to accept what is coming up without reacting from it or suppressing it and pushing it down. It's a way for you to be present with that so that you can see what that feeling is showing you. Because if you react from it or you push it down, you don't get to see what it's showing you. So you just create more and more of whatever that circumstance or that feeling is, right? So if you sit with it, you become present with it, you give yourself the opportunity to change it. So you need to ask yourself, what does this feeling tell me about who I am being right now? And when we say who I am being right now, what we mean by that is this notion of self that you are believing yourself to be, because in that moment, you are perceiving through this false lens of separation. You believe yourself to be something other than divinity. You believe that you are the character, which is really just a set of ideas rather than your true nature as God. And so you need to ask yourself, what is this feeling showing me about that? Think of your feelings and emotions as a compass. So the better you feel, the more in alignment you are. The worse you feel, the more negative you feel, the more fearful you feel, the further out of alignment you are. And so that is an opportunity to come back to your true nature and take a look at what identity was I dwelling in. Was I dwelling as somebody that is constantly defeatist and thinks nothing will ever work out for them? Am I somebody that believes I am stuck at a certain financial threshold and that I will never make any more money or be abundant in any way? Am I somebody that thinks I have to work really hard to get everything that I want and that other people get opportunities easily? What identity are these feelings showing you? And then you get to let go of that identity by holding it in the exact same unconditional love and then moving into the identity that you prefer. And if you want that broken down for you as a guided exercise, I have that in my letting go of the old self video as well, which is linked at the end of this one. I hope that was helpful for you guys. I will also be doing some more videos on this topic. So if you have any further questions about it, feel free to leave a comment or you can message me on Instagram, and if there's enough material, I will make a video on it. All right, my loves, I hope that helped.